Today, Senate Democrats grilled Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth over Trump's deployment of the National Guard and Marines to Los Angeles, despite several questions about the legality of such moves. Take a listen.
We're very proud that the National Guard and the Marines are on the streets defending the ICE agents, and they will continue to do that.
Law and order is a civil function under the Constitution of the United States. What your military is doing right now is laying concertina wire, guarding buildings, maintaining vehicles for other services. This is not only, I think, illegal, but also a diminution of the readiness and the focus of the military.
Joining us now, Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin. She is a member of the Senate Appropriations Committee and questioned Pete Hegseth today.
Senator, welcome. So you have the Secretary of Defense, and we were chatting a little bit beforehand, and I was making the point, someone like Hegseth, knowing what we know is coming in his job, is wholly ignorant of the constitutional principles that Senator Reid was talking about, and understanding the differences between the role of the Defense Department and the military versus the governor and the local law enforcement in the state. What do you make of the Secretary's response and many of his responses today, as you had to wade through a lot of that?
So I asked him point blank, what is the legal authority under which you are sending active duty Marines to California neighborhoods? And he couldn't answer the question. It's shocking that the defense secretary could not answer what legal authority he was using to do that. But you know what? I think he was just doing it because Donald Trump told him he should. Right?
Well,
Donald Trump said, send in the Marines.
So. He said send in the Marines, yes. And he did. This is specifically...
And it's a distraction, as we know, as you were just discussing. This is because his big, beautiful bill, we call the big, beautiful betrayal, which would terminate health insurance from 16 million people and nutrition assistance from millions more to pay for big tax breaks for corporations. He wants to distract attention, and so he sends in the Marines to California neighborhoods.
Well, let me read for folks what the Secretary of Defense said to you. You asked him a very specific question. His answer was, I'd have to pull up the specific provision, but our Office of General Counsel, alongside our leadership, has reviewed and ensured in order that we set out that it's completely constitutional for the president to use federal troops to defend federal law enforcement. A bunch of word salad. Yep. He is the Secretary of Defense. He actually needs to know. I guess... I don't know if I'm buying into the distraction thing. Can't it be both and? Like, he would like to distract, but also Stephen Miller is on. We are getting these. There's lots of reporting out there about how Stephen Miller had a meeting with ICE, with the agents and the leadership, and said, y'all not doing enough. Just get everybody. So can it be that they are just really terribly good at multitasking on some very nefarious things?
Well, look, the American people, I think, want dangerous criminal immigrants deported from this country. But I think they didn't ask for ICE raids at restaurants and schools and churches. And they certainly are not asking for armed Marines to be in their neighborhoods. And so these are deeply unpopular moves, and it is not who we are as a nation.
It is not indeed who we are. You know, we were following the story of Hegseth wanting to rename Navy ships, specifically the Navy ship named after famed LGBT activist Harvey Milk. And I was trying to get to why this mattered, right? Because we know that they are anti-DEI, that they are focused on this quote-unquote warrior ethos, though I am not sure who was more of a warrior than Harvey Milk. Let's put that aside for the time being. You, though, today raised what I think is the most salient point, which is the opportunity cost. What is missed? What are they not focused on at DOD if they are spending their time and their energy focused on renaming ships?
Absolutely. Think about the responsibilities of the U.S. Department of Defense Secretary. You know, Donald Trump ran for office and came in saying on day one he would end the conflict in Ukraine, that he would bring the horrible conflict in Gaza to an end. We have adversaries like Iran and China and Russia and North Korea. And instead, what is he doing? He's focused on announcing at the beginning of Pride Month that he's renaming a naval ship named after Navy veteran Harvey Milk, who was one of our civil rights champions in this country. This is a whole line of ships named after civil rights leaders. It is the John Lewis line of ships. And he's spending his time doing those sort of things rather than securing our nation. That is just irresponsible.
But what he is spending his time on, Senator, is something that is damned important. And I don't think the country should lose sight of how important it is that this weekend, this Saturday, we get to celebrate his birthday. We get to say, happy birthday, Donald Trump. That's the most important thing in front of this man. As it was noted in the Military Times, you had former Democratic Congressman Mac Rose say to the New York Times, rather, they are deploying the National Guard in direct contradiction to what state and local authorities requested. And at the same time, there's this massive parade with a display more fitting for Russia and North Korea. So this is not about anything other than the show and the love that Donald Trump thinks he's going to get from that. I take note, though, Senator, that there are a few of your colleagues on the other side of the aisle who apparently will have other things to do, like getting a colonoscopy or maybe visiting a lost friend, but they won't be here celebrating Donald Trump's birthday this weekend. What are your thoughts, and what does that say to you that out of the 50 Republicans who did bother to answer the question, 7 of them said, nah, I'll be here, but the rest were like, nah, I won't be. I have other things to do.
Well, I think they get the image. This is something that dictators do. This is something that kings do. Mm-hmm. This is a democracy. We have presidents, not kings, not dictators. And this idea of a military parade, which, by the way, is estimated to cost up to $45 million of taxpayer money. This is just like we were talking a moment ago, not what the defense secretary should be focused on.
I mean, literally, he's missing the forest for one tree. It's crazy. You are in the Senate, obviously, the bill, the budget bill, the reconciliation bill is still being debated. We're hearing all different kinds of things now that they're changing. A lot of what Republicans in the House had come to an agreement on. They're talking about getting rid of Medicare, like taking money from Medicare. Maybe that's where they're going to find some of these funds, in addition to maybe still Medicaid. What's the latest on the bill? And do you think it passes either before or right after 4th of July?
Yeah, so I know it will shock you to know that I'm not at that table having discussions, as I hear they are, about even deeper cuts to harm vulnerable people in this country, like the 16 million who will lose their health insurance and the millions who will lose nutrition assistance to pay for these big taxes. They're also talking about eliminating perhaps some of the more popular middle-class working person-focused tax provisions. Right. And it's also, in some ways a little entertaining to watch. There are some Republican senators who I really admire who are saying these cuts are too deep and I can't support it. But my counterpart in the Senate from Wisconsin has said the cuts really aren't close to deep enough. I tease him, I'm glad you're a no, I'm a no on this bill, and let's hope that remains the case.
Ron Johnson is strongly in the no column right now with Senator Baldwin.
Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin, thank you so much for being at the table.